Hello YouTube. Since this is the first video I am uploading on this channel and on YouTube in general, I will just briefly introduce myself before we make a segue to the topic of this video. If you are only interested in the wishlist, there will be timestamps to where you can skip to, as well as timestamp for each race. Now that we are done with that. I am Silverblood, that is my nickname on the internet, but I am usually called Silver, even by friends that know my real name. I made this channel mainly to practice my video editings and the usage of motion graphics skills, which I will keep improving as content comes out. For the topic of my videos, I took a mobile game called Souls. It is a game made by the studio Concrete and published by Habi. Some of you might even know me from the Souls game Discord. I have been playing Souls for nearly 2 years and have been part of this community for a long time. The YouTube scene for the Souls hasn't been in good shape for quite a while. Old players that uploaded videos dropped the game, and there was no one to replace them. Just like with any video game, YouTube is the first place where new players seek information, and I plan to use this opportunity to place guides in order to fill that hole. Helping this game grow is a personal side quest of mine for this channel. Of course, you can always join Souls Discord for the best source of information. The link for their Discord is inside the game. You just have to go to the settings and click on the Discord icon at the bottom of the menu. Now that we are done with the introduction, with all of that out of the way, we can finally move on with the wish list, and we will start it with the Horde Race. First on the list is Elara. Elara is an intelligence supporter who is best known for having cap ability, a good CC and energy reduction. Cap ability, for those that don't know, is an ability that limits the amount of direct damage that those affected by it can take, and that damage taken is based on the receiver's HP. In Elara's case, she and her allies can't take more than 35% of their HP from a single attack until round 3. Two things to note are that when effect says that it lasts until round 3, effect also includes round 3 if you were uncertain of that, and that cap ability is near useless against damage over time effects like burn, poison, etc. Still, this ability is one of the two most defining abilities in the whole Souls, because after a bit of play, you will notice that everything in the game will straight up start one-shotting you, so teams are often made up of one cap hero that can stop that. Maybe some healer that can provide heal or shield to sustain damage taken and as much damage output as you can get from the rest of the team so that you can utilize few rounds while this effect is active. The second major point about her is her crowd control and energy drain. She targets enemies with a high attack and applies a dazzle effect on them and targets around them with her active ability, while her awaken skill allows her to shock aka stun enemies up to the 2 turns and reduce energy by 50, if you apply a dazzle effect on them while they already had one from before. The best way to accomplish this is with Might of Desperation, a divine rune that has a 20% chance of triggering active twice. Elara is used in most of the game's content, from the journey and towers, to the all types of PvP. Her biggest power spikes are 11 stars when she unlocks engraving and cap ability, which you will have to level up to fully unlock, 13 stars when she can shock enemies for 1 turn and 18 stars when she can shock enemies for 2 turns. Next we have Lulu. Lulu is intelligence support, just like Elara, and in my opinion the strongest hero ever released in the game, and she was in the game since game came out. The reason for that was all thanks to her active ability. I told you before that cap is one of the 2 most broken abilities in the game. Well, second one is energy generation, or being a battery as we call them, and Lulu is the best battery in the game. Her active boosts energy of her allies and herself by 50 points. Not only that, she also boosts attack of allies and herself by 20% for 2 turns. The important thing here is that her active also affect herself, so if she use active twice in a round due to activation of the mod rune, she will have energy to do it all over again next round. Sure, odds of mod rune activating is just 20%, but if you can't pass the stage, restarting battles for ideal luck is usually a way to go. She also possesses 2 additional energy boosting abilities. One that boosts energy of all allies when one of them die by 40, and second one is her awaken ability that when she dies she boosts energy of all allies up to 60 and boosts their attack by up to 15% for 2 turns. The best thing about her is that she gets good from the start, and is very easy to build. If you have unlocked Soul level, she can perform even with 5 stars. However, if you are completely new, you would need to have 5 heroes with 11 stars and levels 240 to unlock Soul level, and Lulu is nice choice to be among the. Since she is also in the Sanctum shop and you will have easier time building her up. After 2 supporters, we have one of the most essential damage dealers in the game, and that is Sander. Sander is an agility attacker, and what is interesting about him is that he is amazing at dealing with single target enemies or bosses. Among the many good abilities he has, I will mention 2 of them. The first one is his awaken skill, which provides him with up to 45% penetration, and on top of that, he deals additional damage based on defense ignored. This is important, especially against bosses, because the more you deal them damage, the more their level goes up and their stats with it, which includes defense. Penetration is a stat that ignores defense, and can go up to 100%, so it is recommended that you reach that number on Sander. The easiest way to do that is through runes. The second one is the ability to get 20 energy for each debuff cleansed and being able to consume all of that extra energy in order to deal greater damage when using his active ability. Due to this ability, the potential Divine Rune, which has a 40% chance of granting a hero an extra 50 energy at the start of the round, is also very good on him, besides of course the Mod Rune, which is good on nearly everyone in the game. Also, very good ability in modes where you can have a surplus of energy on Sander each round. Unlike supports that don't care that much about stats, Sander is damage dealer, which means that stats are important on him, and you want to invest into him until he has 20 stars. His engraving is very good as well, so you should work on that once more essential engravings are done. Next is Abila, our first tank. Abila is a strength tanker. Just like Sander, he is very good in situations where he deals with a single enemy, and that is due to his active ability that deals damage to the enemy with the highest attack and applies to provoking for 2 turns. Provoke is a taunt or debuff that forces an enemy to attack Abila during its duration. He is essential in cave boss battles and is used against 3 out of 5 ancient beast lair bosses, and that is mainly it. Unfortunately, the devs released most of the new bosses with built-in immunity to provoke due to how prevalent and strong Abila was. He cares about stats as well, but less than damage dealers. It is more important for him that you build 2 runes. They are full magic damage resistance and full physical damage resistance. Defense stat on runes is trash, while HP only has some niche usages, so physical and magic damage resistance are the way to go. Runes for the last stat can either have resistance of that type, or a reincarnation divine stat that has a 20% chance of reviving that hero when he dies at the start of the next round. You can figure out which rune to use based on opponent's attributes. If they have an intelligence attribute, they are magic damage dealers. If they have agility or strength attributes, they are physical damage dealers. Lastly, in the elf race category, we have Galen, an intelligence support, but don't let his support class fool you. He is more of a damage dealer than a support. All of that is because of his active ability Sandstorm and passive abilities that support it. His active ability targets the closest enemy in the back line and all enemies around him and has a 55% chance of applying Sandstorm CC aka stun. Besides that, he also possesses passive abilities that increase his attacks by 12% for each enemy in a Sandstorm, an ability that increases attacks up to 25% against enemies in a Sandstorm, and passive that increases his chances of a Sandstorm by up to 10% and active ability damage by up to 20%. Why is this important? It is because if you can't tank enemies from one-shotting you, you can at least prevent them from doing it in the first place. Pair him with a Mod Rune, an energy battery like Lulu, and if you are lucky, the Mace of Judgment, a mythic artifact that has a 50% chance of increasing duration of your CC by 1 turn and increases damage against CCD enemies by 30%, and you will have a good time with Galen. He is mainly used in a dedicated CC team in Journey once you reach higher chapters or in PvP, where he is useful in modes that require more than one team, like Ancient Arena, Champions Arena and Guild Wars. Before we move to the next race, I will give you the names of the 2 more heroes from the elf race that you can swap in, if you max one of the 5 previously mentioned heroes or just don't want to push them until 20 stars. The heroes that you can swap are Tanya and Serena. Both of them are damage dealers for a late game that requires a lot of investment. So you might as well start working on them on time. I won't go into more detail about them, since by that time they are useful you will figure out why they are good. The elf race, in general, is the best race among the 4 races that are on the wish list, due to a lot of good heroes on it, so I would suggest to you that if you have a race summoning stones, you use them in an elf race, since that would be in most cases the most optimal solution. Now from the best race we are moving to the worst race, and that is Horde. The best hero and shining star of the Horde race is, without a question, Lupico. Lupico is strength support, and most importantly a battery. However, unlike Lulu, which is all about energy and attack buffing, Lupico, aside from energy buffing, packs up a punch. It all revolves around his active ability that targets the closest support, deals damage to it, and enemies around it, and leaves on them burn damage over time for 3 turns. He has very good numbers on his active ability, and he gets even more buffed up with his awakening skill, which boosts damage from all burns and bleeds by 40% while he is alive. Although all of this is just extra, the most important thing about Lupico is that he is a battery that comes with his engraving ability that gives 20 energy for each enemy hit with his active ability to up to 3 allies with the highest attack. This is very important engraving. If I were to start again, it would probably have been the 4th engraving I would have gotten behind Carmen, Lilith and Ilara. If you are short on materials, like we all are, you should get his engraving to level 30, because that is when he can energy boost the main damage dealer in the team and himself, in order to sustain that energy boost in each round. It is important to note that, for this, he would have to be the hero with the 2nd highest attack on your team. So getting a mythic weapon and boots for him, especially with his good numbers on active attack, is not a bad idea. Next one is Paru. She is agility support, and one of the few so-called sacrificial heroes that we have in the game. The main purpose of these heroes is usually to just die and trigger their undeath effect. In Paru's case, her awakened skill is that when she dies she removes all shields from the enemy team and buff her allies with crit rate and crit damage by up to 38% for 2 turns. She also possesses few more interesting abilities, like being able to supply 30% crit rate for 2 turns to her allies in the same row with her active, but her undeath ability will usually be the reason you are playing her. Her undeath effect is awakened skills that levels up with the stars. You would want to get her to at least 18 stars. Horde doesn't really have a lot of good heroes. That won't be much of an issue, since there is no one better to swap in anyway. Now we have another sacrificial hero, that is Ligu. He is a strength tanker. Just like with Paru, his undeath effect is tied to his awakened skill, and it reads that when he dies he stuns all enemies in front row for 2 turns and reduces their defense by up to 40% permanently. Unlike Paru, Ligu only have this one good skill that he is used for, and you would want to get him to 18 stars as well in order to max it. After that we have Jack. Jack is agility attacker. He is mainly used in the PvP. The most notable thing about him are his engraving that allows him to joint attack when allies attack with 30% chance to deal up to 145% of his attack damage. He also possesses unique damage over time called tetanus that he applies with his active on the closest backline target. Tetanus reduces attack by 13% and crit rate by 17%, and due to his awakened skill, it can spread on adjusted enemies when target that carry tetanus die, making it very obnoxious to deal with. Like any DPS, you would want to get him to 20 stars, and in his case, to make him really work, you would want to get his engraving as well. Lastly, in the Horde race we have Pow Pow. He is strength tanker, and he is mainly used in the PvP. The 2 most notable abilities that he possesses are buff on his active called Reflective Chi that buffs his entire team, reduces 20% of damage taken and reflects 35% of direct damage taken for 2 turns, while other ability is that he shares 50% of damage taken by the lowest HP ally. He is staple in the PvP and helps a lot against heroes like Rose that goes in Indus when she would have taken lethal damage due to her engraving, and unless she had damage over time effect on her, the only way to deal with her while she is in Indus is either Pow Pow reflected damage, since it goes through Indus, or Mythic Artifact Home of the Sun that allows attacker to straight up attack Indus heroes. When it comes to extra heroes that you could swap in case you finished working on one of the mentioned 5, it is hard to recommend anyone else due to how bad these heroes actually are. If I had to pick one, it would have probably been Bella, due to her maybe having some potential in the PvP later on. Next we have Human Race. First among them is Rochelle. He is strength tanker. The most important thing about him is that just like Elara, he is a cap hero, but unlike her he unlocks that just with leveling him up, making cap much easier to acquire for the new players in the game. Unlike Elara, he can also provide shield to adjusted allies with his active and cleanse 1 debuff with it, making him rather useful against damage over time based teams. If there is strong damage over time apply on the enemy team, you can just set Rochelle's movement speed to be right behind him so that he can cleanse that damage over time before it wrecks your team completely. He doesn't scale that amazing with stars aside of getting more HP base stat for his shields. So it is rather cheap hero to build, and you can always swap him out if something of more importance comes out. Next is Rockin. Rockin is strength tanker, and he fills the role of the sacrificial hero, and among all of them, he is definitely the best one. His awakened skill allows him to reduce energy of all enemies by up to the 60, and apply increased damage taken debuff 28% for 2 turns. The most important thing here is that he can do that up to 2 times, which is different compared to other sacrificial heroes. If you have Salina or Odelia in the team, you can revive him after his death in order to apply that debuff again once he dies. You can also do that while using Reincarnation Divine Runes that has 20% chance to revive hero with full health at the start of the next round. He also possesses ability that on his death silence enemy team with more than 40 energy. Unfortunately that effect only activates once. He is amazing hero, and you should definitely focus on him in Sanctum Shop after you are satisfied with your Lulu. After Rockin we have Adina. Adina is intelligence support, but just like Galen, she is damage dealer in disguise. Her active attacks all enemies in the back line and has 65% chance to freeze them. However, the real kicker with her is that with her engraving ability she can steal up to 9% attack of each frozen target she attacks. Unfortunately what was needed for Galen applies for her as well. She needs Mod Rune, Battery, and ideally Mace of Judgment Divine Artifact to make her really good. However, unlike Galen, she has amazing scaling due to her ability to steal attack, and if you manage to slow down enemy team until she gets going, you will see her sweep rest of the enemy team. When it comes to stars, she doesn't really care that much, because his attack stat will be based on the stolen attack. Still, it is nice if you want to ramp up damage faster, but it is your choice anyway. Although at 11 stars she unlocks engraving ability that allows her to steal attack, so getting her to 11 stars and maxing her engraving should be your main goal with her. Next is Odelia. Odelia is intelligence healer, and what is important about her is that she is one of the 3 main tankers in the game against bosses that either ignore provocation from Abila or there is multiple of them so that Abila's strat doesn't work. Those 3 tankers are Odelia, Tania and Taros, and among them Odelia needs the least amount of investment for her to start working. The reason she can work is due to her active ability that heals allies with the lowest HP by 300% of her attack and passive ability that converts 100% of any excess healing into a shield for 2 turns. So you either set her or someone else in the team at the frontline with lowest HP in the team to tank attacks using her heals and shields. The reason to use her up is due to her immunity to CC, while you can use other heroes as well if you want to equip them with magic or physical damage resist rune and her with attack rune so that she gets most of it. This strat also needs reliable energy generation like Lulu that buffs both energy and attack, and if possible someone like Mel, about whom we will talk a bit later on, who can keep buffing her attack and other to match damage applied by the bosses. She is a hero that cares about her attack, since her heals and shields scale based on it, so you should definitely push her up to 20 stars if you can. Lastly, in the human race we have Ken. Ken is agility attacker. What is interesting about him is that his active targets single enemy, however after hitting enemy attack bounces to adjusted enemy up to 4 times in chain attack, so it is important that enemy team is grouped in a way that there is a route through which Ken can hit all of them. He also apply bleed damage over time with his active due to passive, which is important due to 2 of his abilities that increase his attack by 15% for each enemy that has a bleed and engraving ability that increases his attack up to 20% against enemies with bleeding. Even though he doesn't get boosts from his abilities if he procs mod rune on a first turn when he both applies bleed first and then attack over it, having mod rune for rounds later is amazing due to how much damage output he can deal. The biggest issue for him is enemy hero positioning, and having enemies separated really makes him borderline useless. Still, as any DPS you want to get him to 20 stars. Before we move to the next race, the heroes I would suggest as swapping options for the human race are Scarlet and Milia. Scarlet is very good healer, especially for PvP, while Milia is up-and-coming DPS that rose to popularity after she obtained exclusive equipment. I debated between her and Ken to put on the list, but ultimately decided for the Ken, because he is easier to get online, since he doesn't need exclusive equipment, and he still didn't get his exclusive equipment. Once he gets it, if it turns out to be good, he would overthrow Milia once again. Lastly we have Undead Race. First on the list is Carmen. Carmen is intelligence attacker and menace of a hero. When game came out she was the best hero to push with, and she ruled over PvP for over a year, to the point that devs had to introduce different kind of counters for her until finally her meta died for good. Even though at newer servers you can see her rule over PvP, since new players don't have luxury to invest in PvP only units. The reason why she is good is mainly due to her engraving, that apply poison to any enemy that attacks her, and after 3 attacks taken she would increase her attack permanently by 7%. The trick here is to place her in frontline, while placing Cap Hero behind her and let her soak all of the attacks while applying poison on enemies and scaling with her attack. Of course you would also need a healer to sustain the damage she takes, so someone like Salina or even better Benzel can fill that job and you have yourself core of the damage over time team. Carmen also applies poison on her active, and what is interesting about her poison is that prevents revives. She is definitely chase hero in the early game. You can also get her in the Beast shop, which is easiest shop to grind it. She is in my opinion the first on the list for the engraving, and you should definitely speedrun her to 20 star as soon as possible. She will make your early game life much easier. Next one is Melanda, or Mel as everyone calls her. She is intelligence support, and probably one of the best heroes released this year on par with Rose. The reason she is that good is because of her active ability that targets enemy and permanently reduces their attack by the 8%. However, the real interesting part is that with her awakened skill she increases permanently attack of all allies in the same row by 50% of reduced attack. That might not sound like much since it is basically just 4% of enemy attack, but their stats, especially for bosses, often go crazy high, so Mel's skill is really good. She can only boost attack up to 50% of her attack, and that limit is only for a single instance of her active. With mod rune activation she can boost up to 100% of her attack in a single round, which truly paints up a picture of how good she really is. With her engraving she can target up to 2 enemies with her active, making her boost more consistent when it comes to reaching 50% of her attack threshold. When it comes to her stars, you want her at 20 stars, because the more attack she has, the more she can share to others. After her, we have Dexter. Dexter is agility support. He in some ways similar to Lulu, since he is both battery and attack booster. He targets frontline enemies with his active, and for each enemy hit, he boosts energy of allies around him by 25, which is really good, but it requires for enemy to have at least 2 heroes at the frontline for this skill to be good enough. Aside of that, he also boosts attack of all allies around him by 24% for 5 turns at the start of the game, which is very nice boost to have. He also have Undeath effect that heals ally with highest HP by 27% of their max HP and boosts their attack by 35% of Dexter's attack. So to some extent you would want him to have high stars, so the more attack he has, the more he can boost your main DPS once he dies. Our last sacrificial hero on this wishlist is Ashe. Ashe is intelligence support. Her awakened skill is basically copy-pasted from the one Rockin has. It says that once she dies, she reduces energy of all enemies by up to 60 and increase their damage taken by up to 28% for 2 turns. Unfortunately for Ashe, she can apply it only once during the battle, while Rockin can do it twice, which makes him much better compared to her. Aside of that, she also found niche usages with her active ability that targets enemy frontline, deals damage and reduces their defense by 30% for 3 turns. Because her undeath effect is awakened skill, you will have to get her up to at least 18 stars. Finally, last on the list is Xenon. Xenon is interesting case, since he was rather bad for a long time until like Milia he got exclusive equipment, and with it he became good. His exclusive equipment says that once he uses active, the ally with highest attack gets attack boost of 25% for 2 turns. He can also use active twice if he removes 2 or more enemy buffs with his active. In order for him to remove enemy buffs he would need to have at least 10 levels in his engraving. Unfortunately he can't apply attack boost twice in the same round. The reason I chose Xenon is because once you unlock Ancient Beast Lair, even if you are at the bottom of the ranking you will keep accumulating 800 beast marks each week, and so far Xenon is the best option to spend those marks in. As a newer player you probably invested in only few damage dealers, so the next best thing is to at least boost those damage dealers further on. If you have something better you want to work on, you can always leave Xenon at 11 stars when his engraving is unlocked, and he will function well enough in your team. The extra heroes that you can swap in for the ones we already mentioned are Nox and Muerte. Both of them are amazing tankers, mainly oriented for the PvP. And that would be it for the wishlist. Of course this wishlist, aside of it being my opinion, only applies for now until some broken hero or exclusive equipment gets released. If something like that happens I will post and pin comment down below, in which I would explain what change I would have made, so that you know what is the best wishlist at that time. If you find this type of content interesting, you can post comment and suggest what type of guide would you want me to make related to this game. With that out of the way, I wish you good luck in climbing chapters and peace out.